if we can get through to some of the adults to love their children enough to really start telling them the truth, but actually learning what truth is and learning how to read, a lot can be helped. A lot can be helped. Because like as they're growing up, it's like baby girls growing up, she really kind of like doesn't have an idea of the diabolical minds of people that are operating in government that she may think is government officials, having no idea that they're actually dark priests. And most of the parents aren't aware of it either. So we're dealing with that reality. I'm realistic and I'm pragmatic. And I know that we can't undo necessarily with a few lessons what Rome has had a couple hundred years to do. However, if we can get through to the people certain fundamental maxim truths that are indisputable, that we can demonstrate to them, that they can sow for themselves, that they can start getting out of the follower mentality and start guiding by their own divine mind, and respecting knowledge again, that they would liberate themselves. Because once you start opening up certain doors of knowledge, other things start opening up because nature herself comes to your aid. Do you understand? Because truth always is and doesn't pass away. The deal of it is that the priesthood has covered the truth up. That's what's happening. And if we can peel off some of the gauze, some of the fictional gauze, to get people to really start having enough courage to start looking at things more honestly. They may be uncomfortable, but looking at things more honestly. They will begin to liberate themselves. At that time, nature herself comes to your aid. You can call her God, Allah, Yahweh, etc., but she will come to your rescue. And truth or the divine is always there. It's that we have fallen away from the divine under dogma systems. And part of our denial is what has injured us. And by us passing it down a few generations, what we have now is broken families, children are dying younger and younger, we've got all kinds of cancers, people walking with canes at 39 years old, all kinds of diseases that never existed amongst us. And it's mainly because we've fallen away from divine law. And so I'm not going to try to approach the divine principle with no spooky guilt trip type attitude, if you get the point. Because the sun shines on the good as well as the evil, and let us not get twisted about that. You understand? Divine is neutral. How we use it is our responsibility. Now, the Spanish Inquisition is used by Rome as a cover-up, a code system for the Inquisition against the Moors. Don't ever forget that. Spanish is a cover word for Moorish. If you want to know a lot of your real history, look at the Spanish Inquisition on the planet, not just in one area. If you want to know your history, all right? Scholars know this, Masons know this, Knights Templars know this, Skull and Bones know this, Daughters of the American Revolution know this, Daughters of ISIS know this, Knights of Malta know this. The only people that don't know this are the heirs to the world's largest estate, who generally think that human beings are crayons. And so we have a problem of trying to dig them out of a deep hole of ignorance without offending them, because they have a tendency to let their pride get in front of reality. Because they can't accept that they've been played. They can't accept that they're not as really as spiritual as they've claimed to be. The proof is in the pudding in our communities, and the breaking up of our families. And the IRS, which is really the Inquisition revenue services, been stealing all of our finances, our property, and everything that we work for. And they're not government. They are really a collection arm for the popes of Rome under Unum Sanctum. And the problem that we have with a lot of adults, whether claimed education don't even know that either. So what chance do our babies have? They're going to grow right into it. And we usually have no education prepared for them to defend them from what is already in place to crush their lives, literally. Now, so if we can just get across the third grade Etymon degree, that would help out greatly. All right? One of the things that we had planned to do, but we've been busy, and I do apologize, but really no excuse. I bought some posters because we're going to make some baskets. And if we have some children in here, give them a few words and have them put them in the baskets, you know. But we'll try a little bit of something else. I think I'll just do the 8 parts of speech and then put them up. And then because we have a little baby girl here, we can use her to help us out. Let me do this. Now for the adults, and use this as a starting measure, right? Don't say anything, just raise your hands, raise both hands with numbers, just like a little child would, you know, from 1 to 10. Like put your hands up like this. Don't make a statement, just put your hands up. And then I want you to look around the room. How many parts of speech? How many parts are there in speech? Put your hands up. I don't care what the numbers are. Put them up. Put them up. I saw you. All right. Now, point. And do this with children too, you know. Now, do this test and recognize this test. Now, we're adults. Or we're grown, like children like to say. I used to say when we were little grown-ups.
Don't say adults no more.
Anyway, the fact that everyone hesitated, most of the people in the room hesitated before they put their hands up. What does that indicate? You either didn't know or you weren't sure, both of which is equally incompetent. Are we clear? So if the parent doesn't know, what chance does the child have? And I can almost guarantee you, if you test most children, they will fail too. But the parents never suspect that the teachers were deliberately instructed to hold back an Etymon degree for children that are branded Negroes, Blacks, and Coloreds. They used to separate them in the schools to make sure they didn't get it, and after some pressures with the fake civil rights movements marching around and praying all the time, to keep, kind of peace, they kind of integrated the schools, but what they did, then they chopped the curriculum. And then sacrificed some of their own to maintain the unum sanctum policy, called collateral damage. Are we clear? However, what they also did is that they set up secondary subdivisional agencies, whereas the European children faking as Americans would be protected under what they call loosely white supremacy clauses, which is a misnomer. It's really Inquisition hegemony. That's what people have been calling white supremacy is really Inquisition, Roman Inquisition hegemony. H-E-G-E, I'll write it down for you so everybody, also for the people that are listening so they can see it too. Where did I put that marker? Oh, I got it here. Roman Inquisition, hegemony, now keep in mind, all scholars know this, but persons who you would call made men, or maybe in one of the Masonic orders, even though they wear a Moorish fez, they pretend they don't know it's a Moorish fez. And most of them get comfortable jobs under the corporate state to help maintain the ignorance of their own people. And they take blood death oaths to Rome. And they get a lot of the information, usually in allegorical stories and codified. And some of them don't know until they become members that they're actually getting the real history. And then they can't talk. Are we clear? But understand, most of the knowledge that's held in the secret societies is really about you. And this is why they always put some kind of negative on it. It's the devil, it's Baphomet, they spin cats around in the air on Tuesdays and stuff. They stand on the dark side of the moon farting and stuff like that. And, and so people, oh, well, I really don't want to look at that stuff, And so what happens is they muddy the water and you never examine it, and yet they use that science and that knowledge to run the planet. Are we clear? But for the public, they put up negative images so that to keep you disinterested. Are we clear? And the real deal is about you, and particularly about the Moabite woman, who they'll call in code systems black woman, which means slave woman. All right. Whenever they're using the term black, it means serf or someone in peonage position. It is not an honorable position. It's a degradatory. It's depreciatory. It is pejorative. Distinguished from a civilized person. Like, say, for instance, if you're talking to a civilized person or person in honor, you would deal with their pedigree or their bloodline. For instance, like if I was dealing with Manchurians or Chinese in honor, I would call them Manchurian or Chinese. If I was dealing with them to degrade them or to steal from them, I'd call them yellow people. Are we clear? Civilized people recognize that that's depreciatory. Uncivilized people don't know that that's depreciatory. People who can't read actually think that means some kind of an identity. And then they call themselves green people, and I got a light-skinned black girlfriend, and I'm a dark-skinned black orange person, and it doesn't matter what color you are. And that's when you can, as soon as a person talks like that, you know that they're miseducated. And it's not that they mean any harm, they don't know better. Because they've been denied an Etymon degree from 3rd grade. So they think that means African identity. And they'll argue with you too, not knowing that they've sealed their legal status to the negative. And so with an Etymon degree, we can wake up the average person to that reality without them being offended, because a lot of people have learned to defend the brand system, because they think it's real. As an example, myself, like say yourself, myself, some of the elders here, remember 4 generations ago, if you called one of these Asiatics black, you had a fight. Today, the children think it's a divine African identity. They really do. And that's because the parents have allowed the brand system to take root as a reality. Now they're living dead culture. And the reflection is in the community. All you got to do is walk in the street, stand for 5 minutes, and you can see broken spirits. You know what I mean? Now, we don't want to always admit that, but if we're going to fix things, we have to acknowledge what is happening and not be arrogant and self-righteous and pretend that we're spiritual and special and that Allah made us, didn't make anybody else. We know Jesus, we got a personal phone number and all that stuff. Meanwhile, our families are falling apart. Children are dying younger and younger. We got all kinds of sicknesses and diseases, etc. And families are just out and out broken. You know, and the fastest prison population today is the Asiatic woman under the black brand across North America. You know what I mean? And most of them trying to survive with children because the males are either broke, they're either homos, broke, drugged out, or don't know how to treat women because they've never been raised properly, can't read, can't compete. Got big egos though. You know, we wear cool sneaks. You know, but we got to get over that and get real. And we got to start solving some problems. And in truth, you know, you can't just use guilt trips and make things right. You can't say, well, we're somebody and then you be somebody. That doesn't really work. You know, it's like you don't stand on a wall that's all dirty and stuff saying, we need to paint that wall, but you never paint it. We love paint, and you never paint the wall. It's like we have destroyed people, and everybody's sitting around talking about we're somebody, knowing that we're not really. We ain't doing that. Not really. You know, we need to get over ourselves and start doing some things that work, that actually work. All right? So, keep this in mind. Denotation in grammar and grammatication is related to the etymon. Are we clear? And etymon relates to the denotation. Connotation may signify, may associate, and may not mean anything at all relative to the truth. Are we clear? To keep it very simple, like Dr. Naila was talking a little earlier, I mean, the common one, the most common one, will say nice. Oh, you're nice. And they just called you stupid. You know what I mean? And that's a very good demonstration of etymon versus connotation. So the connotation, you know, somebody say you're nice, oh, thank you very much. You know, and they just called you stupid. You know. Now, that's safe in the hood. It don't count. In a contract, or in a historical document that you're bringing to educate your children from a Bible, a Quran, or WASPI, you can take someone and literally mess their minds up. Same books that are supposed to help them develop ethereally or spiritually can actually do the opposite and become absolutely destructive. Just on the fact that the people can't read. Are we clear? As an example, in transliteration and in scholarship, like someone who has an LLD, someone who's an ecclesiastical scholar, knows that there's no J in Aramaic, knows there's no J in Arabic, no J in Hebrew, and will lie and say they got a personal relationship with Jesus 2,000 years ago. And there's nothing wrong with the word Jesus. Jesus means justice, if you get the point. But if you present it and don't tell the truth of the history, then you've just lied and you've created a whole paradigm of falsehood that ends up getting passed from generation to generation, and guess what it does? It actually destroys. It appears to be good and actually does the opposite. It is no, what's baby girl's name? Huh? Shania? Oh, it's like Mommy's name, Shania. You know, it's just like if we're going to write a book about her and she grows up and she does some productive thing for society, and mother named her Shania, and we start writing and saying that she's Betty Grable. And you know, years ago, Betty Grable came and she fixed a lot of stuff. She was a great decorator. And she designed things and everything, and people start believing it's just what they did to Yeshua when the priesthood renamed him Jesus in order to write his history out and alter it, the history, and try to make him be someone that he actually was not. That's fact. What is called the Nicene Council of 325 AD is where the priesthood altered the books and made up the name Jesus from the Roman god Zeus and tacked it on to Yahshua and changed the history. And yet, how many people these days you hear talking about Jesus with confidence? Not that they mean any harm. But guess what? They can't read. That's how much damage the Roman priests have done to the planet. Are we clear? So we have one of the world's most powerful and influential personalities that was built on a fiction. And not that good men did not exist. Are we clear? And yet, world is guided by it. Are we clear? And yet the persons who perpetrated in secret got another truth for themselves, got an oath, death oath to Rome not to reveal the secrets, and taking the widow's pennies in the name of Jesus, knowingly. And then the people, the community, they can't solve any problems because they're not really spiritually connected to who they think they're connected to. They're actually connected to the popes of Rome, thinking that they're connected to Jesus, to the divine order of God in heaven. And they're actually serving the popes of Rome. And that's a fact. That's what the Nicene Council was for. But a scholar who could read can go into the books and go do transliterations and then pull out the lies. And take the same book and do a lot of good things with it. Because the book is allegorical and Kabbalistic. But if you didn't know that, you'd grow spooky and under somebody else's mind control, thinking that you're serving God and all this stuff. And read about $3,000 suit, and the popes of Rome get the rest of the change. And the community gets poorer and poorer, and they ain't figured it out yet. And all the buildings they have are mortgaged up to the hill. Anyway, we're going to deal with Etymon. We're going to deal with Etymon the Great. As we were earlier, we're going to give you an opportunity to raise your hand, your fingers, like this. All right? How many parts of speech? Fingers only. Fingers only. Come on, come out your coat. Don't try to act like you're busy. All right, put your hands up. How many fingers? How many parts of speech? Let me see fingers. All right, we're cool. Now, first row, name the parts of speech. One, and then we're going down. Give them the other mic.
Islam, verb.
All right, pass the mic. All right.
Noun.
Pronoun.
Go ahead. What'd you say?
Adverb.
Pronoun.
Go ahead.
Conjunction.
Go ahead.
Interjection.
Huh?
Interjection.
Yeah.
This is a part of speech. Past tense. Past tense.
Huh?
Past tense.
Sit.
Past tense.
Hey, what?
No past tense. Go Phone.
No, part. We talk parts.
A speech.
Parts of speech. All right, they name verb, adjective, noun, pronoun, adverb, conjunction, interjection,
Okay.
head, pay.
Preposition.
There you go. There you go. About a participle.
Ah?
A participle.
Participle. Yeah,
Participle.
that's conditional, isn't it?
It is.
Yes, all right.
An article.
Now, in general, what you do, you take all of the parts of speech and then you put them in like on a little bucket or something like that, and then you give the children a list of words, and then you would tell them to put the word in the bucket where it properly goes. Now, you also know in grammatication, some words may be classified in more than one part, and so it would be in context. However, as a general rule, you would have the first order of its matrix or mother part of speech, all right? So, we're going to do it with baby girl. Sanai. Can you come up, baby, with your technical skills and abilities and show these adults what's happening? All right, mama. Now you know, tell me who you are.
Sinai.
All right. Now, this is the Britannica World Language Dictionary. Come around here so they can see you. Come on. Now, I want you to look up the word black. I'll get a marker back here. And do this with the children too. And you give them a list of words so they can get used to that. Swipe this every once in a while when it launches out, please. All right. Now, so I'm going to use a highlighter in this way. We can run right to it when we do this again. All right? And then when you're showing others this, you can do that too, right? All right, as a practice. Now, mama, what part of speech is black?
Have little or no power to reflect light.
No, say it again. No. What part of speech? Now, I want you to pay attention to this, mama. Now, here we go. Look, mom. Adjective. Get in the mic.
Adjective.
Now, see? All right, it's baby girl, right? Now, black's an adjective. What else do you see, mama?
A noun.
All right, here you go. Look at this, mama. See that? All right. Now, you see, when you see the large letters like this, see the large letters in there? That would be called the etymology. All right? And so, that is what? O-E, what is that? Get in your mic, mama. The etymology would be the etymon. That means Old English. All right? And the word black would come from M-E, Middle English, would derive from Old English. So now what do we do, mama? This is what we do, look. Always pay attention to this. Always pay attention to the part of speech. See that part of speech? It comes right after the word, doesn't it? So it's not hidden, is it? So if it's an adjective, can it be a noun? Oh, so if it's not a noun, so now what is a noun? Get the mic.
Person, place, or thing.
So if it's an adjective, can it be a person?
No.
So if somebody calls you black, and that's an adjective, that's a modifier, isn't it? So that means that's pejorative. They just slandered you unless you didn't know how to read. You see? All right, now, so let's look at that. So you see, black's an adjective, right? Now it says having little or no power to reflect light, the color of jet, opposite of white, having a very dark skin. You would immediately know that that is what? Connotative, not denotative. That's how when they present meanings for social engineering, you can easily dismiss it. When you don't, it means you can't read. Now you're under somebody's mind control. You see how that works? See how that works? Now look, Mama. Look right beneath here. This is a compound word. What's a compound word? What's a compound word? A compound word is when more than one word is put together to make another word. Right? Two or more words, right? Anybody know? All right. So that's a compound word. Right beneath this, this shows you the morphology of words or how they evolve in language. Are we clear? So what does this say, Mama?
Black,
Read it slowly.
black,
Dot,
dot,
a,
dot,
more. What part of speech?
now,
All right, but it's a compound word. Now, what is this definition?
black and more.
Go ahead, read that.
Black plus more. Man or woman, Negro.
And then
Black plus more.
black plus more. What do you notice about the word black? All even letters, isn't it?
Yes,
And then it has plus, doesn't it?
yes,
Then it has capital M-O-O-R, doesn't it?
yes,
So here's the proper spelling. And the adjective is deliberately spelled in all even letters, which means it's pejorative. Are we clear?
Majority.
Yes. That means depreciatory. Slander.
Come on, teach.
Are we clear? So now, in the dictionary, you see the more is capitalized, small case, and then the black is all even letters. And they separate the black from the more. Who's these people who think they Negroes, blacks, and colored? Here they are. Say it, Mama. They're Moors. It's in the dictionary. Are we clear? Now, most people, most adults, now she's hesitant because of her training. Do you recognize it, Mama? See, so you have to fix that. And these are the rules. Are we clear? Now, this is what happens. Look. When you're looking up a word and you see the part of speech, you categorize that word, look, Mama, in its proper part, right? It's an adjective, right?
yes,
And it's very clear there, isn't it?
yes,
So you know when someone calls you black, it's being pejorative, unless you didn't know better, you see? So you know that your bloodline or your pedigree would be a name, would be a noun, right?
yes,
And so right beneath it, they give it a noun, but they put the adjective and they separate the adjective from it very clearly and show you the pedigree of the people who are called Negro, black, and colored, right in the dictionary. And who are they, Mama?
Moors.
Of course. Is that hard, Mama?
No,
Is it written in the dictionary, Mama?
yes,
All right. Is that hard, you all?
No.
Now, here we go. Now you see, when you see the large letters, see the OE, and you see the brackets, you'll see the brackets like this. And this is what she's looking at, you all. The brackets. And this is what she's looking at. Right? When you see the brackets mean that. All right? Now, and so, the black comes from Middle English, which is derived from Old English, which puts it at 1100 to 1500. Are we clear? So now, baby knows If I'm writing a book and I'm claiming scholarship and I'm telling her about some ancient black gods of Egypt, she now knows that I've just lied. Because now she can read. Because that word doesn't go in language past this date. Are we clear? Now, in your Oxford dictionaries, or in a better dictionary, you would go into back into the appendix, and then it would give you who has an American heritage. Now, and what you want to have is about minimally about 13 dictionaries. All right, I'll give you a list of some for her, and the next time you come, I'll give you 2 for her to get you started. American Heritage Dictionary, which is one of the most important ones, right? And I'll give you some markings in it to get her started, and a little list of stuff, right, Mama? All right, and then you're going to tell us some stuff, right?
Yes.
All right, and then in the American Heritage Dictionary on English language, it has a sound chart in the back and a short language chart, okay? And this will help her. And then you go into the front and use that. Now, whenever you see the large letters and the brackets, this is called the etymology. And the etymology means denotation. And understand when they have entries, what you call presentments, they may call them definitions. They are not if they don't harmonize with this. Now, in the same rule, when they're like presenting things to us, like we were talking earlier, like most of our people, I know because you're a baby girl. You ever heard of a allodial title?
No.
Come on.
Allodial title. Right? Now, allodial title. Allodial title, all property, like say mom's house, and mom has some jewelry, and she has some heirlooms from great-grandmother that she's saving for you, some that was passed down to her. That would be called allodial property. And the land from great-grandmother would be called allodial property until Woodrow Wilson in 1913 modified or altered the records in order to help institutionalize the unum sanctum policy, which is really the Roman Inquisition hegemony, which they're enforcing step by step, generationally. Are we clear?
Yes.
To make sure that you never get any wealth, to make sure that you never get what is called old money. Your great-great-grandmother may have tons of land and houses and finances, and it would never get to you. You may know about it, you'd never get it. They would tax you out of it. They would lien you out of it. So part of what we're dealing with now is to avoid this from continuously happening. I know that among you all, because it's in my family too, that you can talk about large tracts of land that have been lost. As an example, with my family, in Jersey, where used to be Garden State Racetrack, which is now Depot and all of that, where Parkside School is on Park Avenue in the Merchantville area. From Merchantville going through Cherry Hill, through Pennsauken, all the way up to the Garden State Racetrack, used to be a racetrack there. All of that land was my family's land. Over years, they stole it. And that happens to our people all the time. All right? Now they have, in 89, they sent their letters out to our families, you know, and of course, we had, the family so large, we had to meet at the Hilton Hotel. And what they were doing, they were passing out checks on the estate. I wouldn't take it. You know, but they were parceling out the last of our land that they've been stealing from our families. As the elders died, the children didn't know anything about that stuff. They just, you know what I mean? And I met a lot of people that were friends of mine that I didn't know were my family. You know, and even a couple of people are nationalized. But anyway, Mama, this is key. This is key. And I want you to think about this, all right? And it may not be on your mind right now, but what we want to do, and this is important to me anyway, so I take this passionately, so you forgive me for that. I want to make sure that you don't suffer some of the things that we suffer.
Okay.
All right? And it's going to be because you're going to have knowledge right there. Are we clear? I mean, for real, for real, for real. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
And you're going to protect her. All right? Never forget this rule. Never. You can do a refined etymological study. One of the best etymologists, and I'm not being biased, in the country is Abdullah Iltalib Mosi Bey.
Yeah.
And you can get more refined. I'll make sure she gets a couple of his books too. So next time you come, I'll have stuff waiting for you. For Mom. All right, Mama?
Yes.
And you're going to use them, right?
Yes.
All right. Give Shania a hand, y'all. With her. Now, keep in mind, when they do an assessment of our people, and the general assessment is that our people average a 4th grade reading skill from the adults to the children. 4th grade reading level. And that's true. Do the research. And the reason why is because they don't have an Etymon degree. Not because they can't pronounce words. Not because they can't, do a phonetic dissertation. But they do not have an Etymon degree. An Etymon is what a word is, not what you think it is, not what it said. Girl, you got the boots, girl. Boots and bottles. Go ahead, girl. We're going to make sure later that that people are veiled with how to study. And with that prerequisite, we're going to do the Etymon degree so that the people have some reference point. Islam. And we have the unfortunate situation that our people have trusted people who are in position of authority to educate their children when they're actually being trained. They've been trained to ignorance, etc. Now, I want you to keep in mind that whenever you give Mama, say a list of words, start with 5, 6, keep it comfortable, and I used to do it mine. I used to take the egg crates and I cut 4 of them off, and I put markers on them, but you can use something different, and then test her that way. And then have her show her friends that she'll develop by that way too. But keep in mind, this was very important. This was very important. It was supremely, for control purposes, important for them to negate an Etymon degree to our children, which they should have gotten in the 3rd grade, because if they were able to read what was exposed to them, they could almost go into any literature and almost tell whether the author was deliberately lying or not. And even in subject matters that they're not familiar with, because they could cross-reference in different dictionaries, go to the original meaning, put a timeline on it, and see the motive of the writer. And logically, they could also use that same basic skill to take contracts, like mortgages and stuff, that their parents had and were busting their butt working and discovered that it's actually a sharecropping agreement. They don't own anything. And the mortgage means dead pledge. The contract is dead, and your body and your labor is the pledge and leaned on in perpetuity. And so someone who reads knows that's what mortgages mean. Someone who can't read just think they borrow $5 and paying it back. And so what has happened is, particularly since 1913, Woodrow Wilson converted all of our allodial titles and aboriginal titles into mortgages and deeds in 1913. Prior to 1913, that paradigm did not exist at Northwest Amexem. All rights of stewardship was held in allodial title. Let's go down to subject matter. Right there. Prior to 1913, most Americans owned clear allodial title to property, free and clear of any liens or mortgages, until the Federal Reserve Act 1913 hypothecated all property within the federal United States to the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, in which the trustees, so you're talking about a trust, aren't you? Because that's the global estate trust that the Pope set up. They're board of directors for it. Board of trustees, stockholders, you're held as stock. Held legal title. The U.S. citizen, see why they broke that 14th Amendment? This is a tenant and a franchisee. You're not an owner, a tenant. You're sharecropping. Was registered as a beneficiary of the trust via her birth certificate in 1933. That's what Delano Roosevelt did. That's why they got rid of Noble Drawley in 29. But it crashed anyway. The federal United States hypothecated all the present and future properties, assets, and labor of their quote-unquote subjects, the 14th Amendment U.S. citizen to the Federal Reserve. See what I say there, baby?
You own nothing.
Even in her proper
You're sharecropping.
Right.
Even in her proper person.
You're sharecropping. So what you do
Trust.
is you put it in trust and convert it back to a allodial title. Under mortgages and deed is not paid. It's called, write this down, set off and discharged. None of which is a payment. It's a set off, which means it's pushed off to the future, but not satisfied. That's why they want to liquidate it.
So how
You could, you're doing everything that you're supposed to do, giving them the Federal Reserve notes. In your mind, in our mind, you're making payments. It's called de donis. Write that down. De donis is a gift. And they can foreclose at any time. I don't care how far you up. This is what it is. Proper person, put it in a allodial title and put it in trust. And then put a lien on it. Yes.
But you said
That's how we say-
mortgage, but there is no mortgage.
Say again?
There's no mortgage.
No, see, no, I know what you're saying. See, you're not getting it.
Concept.
Yes, please make me clear.
It-
This is important.
The idea that it's paid off is misrepresented, because it isn't.
Yeah, because it's
The tax continues, it's a payment, it's still a tithe on it,
That's
because it's not property. See, allodial property, there is no tax, there is no lien on it. The lien exists because it's under mortgaged. See, the idea that the mortgage is eliminated is a false presentment. They're telling you that, but it's not true. It's still liened. See, stop thinking that they're moral.
No, I don't think.
No, it's not just for you. I'm talking to everyone.
Yes.
Stop thinking that they're moral. Stop thinking that when you make payments, that's how it goes in the book. It doesn't go in the book as a payment. It goes in the book as the donors. And what they do is that they discharge and set off the debt against your nationality. It's called the national debt. And it keeps rising because it ain't paid. Do you understand? You know what hypothecated means? Write it down. Hypothecated. Now, again, the identity crisis, we're assuming things that are not true. We're assuming things to be settled that are not settled. They're never settled. This is the source of their power, is the deception.
Hey, for Tyler.
Yes, go ahead.
This one. Well, how do we create a trust that's not a creature of the state?
Aren't you a national?
I am not.
Is she a proper person?
Yes, yes.
All right, that's what you do. That's why Joel said, if you don't do anything else, declare your nationality. Now let's look at this. Let's look at
nationality name and trust.
Yes. Now, let's look at in the Pope's letter to Obama. Let's look at the last part of it. Now, in the entry, the commentary that goes about the Act of Congress 1871 is telling you some of this fraud that we're talking about. Well, let's go to the bottom part of the letter. And then understand the 14th Amendment, understand what Drew Ali is talking about too. Put all this stuff in context because the politics meaning it's all manifesting now. This is the whole point. The prophecies are manifesting. You're living them. Excuse me, I apologize. All legal fiction entities, however structured, that's talking about the straws. However structured and named after the American states and the American state citizens. This would be the all capitals that's on that instrument that you have that's mortgage. It's not you, it's an estate. Look at it, it's all capital letters. All capital letters. It's an estate. Are returned to them and their control, free and clear of any debt, promise, encumbrance, obligation alleged against them as a result of false claims made in their behalf by officers of the United States of America Incorporated. And the United States all Incorporated, uppercase. Those are two different corporation shells that were created continuously to steal the Moorish birthright. By officers of the United States of America Incorporated, United States Incorporated, or by any foreign officials operating in the United States of America minor. They're all foreign officials. They're impostoring. And these are the people you're dealing with. Or the United Nations city-state falsely claiming to, quote-unquote, represent them or have jurisdiction over them. We note that the current circumstance is in part the result of criminal acts engaged in 150 years ago. You're dealing with this whole area here that we're giving you this history, which resulted in the commercial enslavement of African Americans. Who were the African Americans? They're really the Moorish Americans, who were summarily claimed as chattels backing U.S. government debt in wake of the Civil War. Despite every act of abolition and declaration of prohibition against both peonage and slavery, it has been the policy of the U.S. government to enslave its citizens and to operate as a rogue state among the nations of the world. Instead of freeing African Americans, the sum total result of the Civil War was to vastly expand public sector ownership of slaves, giving rise to the outrageous and improper claims that had been made against the American states and the American state citizens that we are dealing with today. It is uniquely fitting that the Grand Army of the Republic is recalled to settle this circumstance in favor of the people. Attachments. Civil orders Anna Maria Wilhelmina Hanna Sophia Ritzinger von Ritzenstein von Letno Verbeck, private attorney in service to His Holiness Pope Francis. Documents related the United States isn't a country, it's a corporation. Here the Vatican Crown Empire. So, now the Pope is telling you, he owns it. They're trying to fix it because they're under pressure. Manchurian Masons are dropping their bankers and other people, and secretly they're negotiating. And they're doing a 10-for-1, and we're sitting around thinking that we own stuff. It's hypothecated. Being in your proper person, you have right of claim. Make your claim. Do you understand? So when they come after it, they're hitting a wall. Do you understand? The rightest thing you did was being in your proper person. Because under the Negro Acts, that black codes, guess what? You got that right twice. And these are fundamental. If people just knew the fundamentals of what's going on, they'd fix this stuff themselves. They wouldn't have to need no drawing until you declare your nationality. You'll do it on your own. But if nobody expose this stuff, our people just think it's information. It's interesting stuff. Them guys over there. And this is your estate. It's your birthright. And this goes back to some criminal Moors that keep on trying to own the birthright, talking about you ain't part of our club, ain't part of our temple, you can't be Moorish American. That's your bloodline.
Right.
That's unalienable. It can't be bought or sold. You ain't belong to our temple, therefore you ain't no more.
Well, I learned that the hard way.
They want to hang them types too. Once they start seeing these babies dying and stuff. See, they're letting these people off with this stuff right now because they don't, put it this way, the fire ain't really under their butts like it's going to be. When it really gets under their butts, a lot of these people who have been betraying the prophet, they better try to go to the moon. Because some of the most mild people, when they realize how much their families have been sacrificed because of these fakers,
Yes.
no, they believe. See, they ain't got enough pain yet. Because when we start messing with babies and stuff, people get a little different. And they've been sacrificing the babies too. If you don't know how demonic these people are, they just hear a little, but you ain't hearing nothing yet. And you're going to get these Negro leaders that have been keeping this black thing going on that you just thought was a matter of opinion, and you recognize that they've been selling your babies. Some of these nice, calm mothers, it's going to be really different. Women is nice and soft and stuff. But let them get mad. I don't know too many people that win.
That's right.
Girl. But seriously.
That's what they made.
But this is the point. See, the trust, the faith that you have is that you honorably made transactions on an instrument called the mortgage and completed the trade. I'm just saying, when you say it's paid off.
No, she never went into a mortgage.
Yeah, but even if you did cash type thing, see, it doesn't, see this, the idea of it being satisfied is the deception. See, it's not what you did,
Can't satisfy.
the idea of satisfaction. Yes, warranty deed.
To me.
Yes,
And I'm like,
now,
that's not right.
now, this is what, now you take the special warranty deed, and you're supposed to ask for it anyway. They're supposed to give it to you anyway. And then you take this, and you convert it into a quick claim and into an allodial title. It must go back to its original format to be safe. Let's be clear. Let's be clear. Any instrument under the U.S. Service Corporation that alleges to secure an estate is itself colored. It must be returned to its allodial status, which is why Woodrow Wilson converted all allodial titles in the first place, to set the platform up for the deception, to make people think they've completed a cycle, and they didn't. You know, it's like, remember years ago when the Mount Bell thing, and they spot people buying these gold-plated phones and stuff? I had one.
But you didn't know that.
This ain't your phone. And you spend all that finance? It wasn't your phone. So this is, let's be real. This is what's happening. See, and this is back to understanding what birthright theft is. What they're talking about that 150 years ago is this whole stuff here. So while the people are sitting around talking about racism and prejudice, they're actually on the stock market. That's why you have trolls that come on there to try to divert from this information. Because a lot of them have been helping to maintain this, and they've been getting paid off in the background. Woo! See, because people trust people that look like you and me. Do you understand what I'm saying? Especially if they got a title.
Yes.
Do you understand? But once you know this, they can't hide, can they?
No.
Did Taji guy say this?
No.
That's direct to President Obama from the Pope himself. And what did Obama do? He did the best he could. He said, the real American flag, didn't he? They signed the rights of the indigenous people.
Yes, sir.
Did Taji guy say that, or did he do that?
He did. Yeah.
Thank you, trolls. So the deal of it is, what we've got to do is choke the beast. You can't feed the beast and get satisfied. What is the key that is acknowledged by all the nation states? And we're talking about including their number 1 and 2 allies, that's France and Germany. What did they do with Germany's gold before they dropped the buildings in New York and said that Moscow deal with box cutters? Yes. They sent diplomats from Germany to Land of Nod,
New York.
Amsterdam, you call New York, to check on their gold. Because they had enumerated. That's what they gave them. Right?
Yeah.
2 months later, the buildings dropped, and they said some Muslims in the cave with box cutters was carving things, hieroglyphs on the wall, and made the buildings fall down. Been lying and stuff. Of course they lied. They stole gold. One of the trucks got really one in the tunnels there. So the deal of it is, that's one of their number 1 allies.
Yep.
And so understand, after the Second World War, Germany's constitution is designed as a vassal state under the United States Service Corporation under the Jesuit order. So it's like a front government. And Angela Merkel is actually Hitler's daughter. All right, so they've been robbing them too. And so that's kind of shaky. So in the background, they've been making more contracts with Russia, and most of the energy fuels for Eastern Europe, except Western Europe and part of Eastern Europe, coming from Russia. And the U.S. corporation operatives started that war in Crimea as a distraction because the pipeline that they're setting up coming from Iran, Iraq to Syria to the ports, which would further interrupt the forced operation of conversion of foreign currencies under the U.S. petrol fraud dollar to get things for free, which is what they've been doing. which is what this countermeasure is going on. That's what that war in Syria is about, etc. So the rest of the world already knows the reality of these politics. The people that don't know the reality of the politics are mostly the people here that think human beings are crayons. The Europeans know, but the heirs to the estate still talk around light-skinned, orange-skinned black people and all this stuff, and I'm going to do UCCs, and I'm going to authenticate that birth certificate that Franklin Delano Roosevelt did and get a hold of this grand trust and stuff, and all they're doing is giving Rome time. And then excusing Rome. He's never honored anything. That is a platform for demons. They are Satanists. They have every, this is what they do: befriend, embrace, devour. That's their policy. Write that down so you never forget it. Befriend, embrace, devour. And I know some of you, not all of you, because most of you are young, but some of you elders have knowledge of family members, and some family members who know other family members that have been in the different, what they call theaters. They don't even always call them wars, theaters, where the Roman Unum Sanctum operations are going on around the world. That's where they go in the nations, say they ain't Christians or they don't like Jesus, and then they go bomb them, kill women and children, steal their resources. And many of these Asiatics can speak of family members who, upon entry into those theaters, have been told, "What the hell are you doing here, brother?"
Yeah.
And these are the only Asiatics that don't recognize they're Asiatics. And a lot of them are living because they was given a pass and still don't get it. Still don't get it. So it becomes necessary for Manchurians from the old ancient dragon families to set out upon the earth from a pool of over 20 million perfected assassins to counter European colonial operations to a point of terminal, one way or the other. They still have the toys and the advanced technology and everything, but the promise is take one, we take 10, see who lasts. Meanwhile, the heirs are still sitting around playing these black games with their black leader guys, with the help of trolls, who are betraying the principal cause of the miseries, not just here, but of the rest of the world, because there's going to be some people that's going to come here from other nations that are going to take care of some of these black leader guys too. Because if it wasn't for them, a lot of their families would be living. You got to understand why the world don't like black people. And black is not an identity. It's a traitor class. They're called conversos.
Amen.
They're called conversos. When you talk to other nationals outside of the shores, the people here that call themselves Christian blacks are conversos. They will sell their babies, hiding behind Jesus, doing the most evil and vile things the world has ever known, going to and fro the earth, devouring nations for Rome, then come back and start black marches and stuff. Think the world don't see them for just who they are? Hypocrites. And the trolls that they send out to try to block this information. Anyway, so that's congressional records. That's like from Pope to Francis to Obama. So when people be assuming, see, mortgage, and you look this up, look in the dictionary. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you something. I said so. Just look at mortgage. I like this system. This is awesome. That's authority. It's got a technique going on too.
mortgage, an estate created by a conveyance
An estate, go ahead.
absolute in its form, but intended to secure the performance of some act, such as the payment of money and the like, by grantor or some other person, and to become void if the act is performed agreeably to the terms prescribed at the time of making such conveyance.
Now, this is what happens when you made the agreement. I'm going to tell you what happened. You paid cash, and you didn't even do all that, all right? And they give you a deed, right? And no, alleged. Now, and this is what happens. Any properties held under the corporate states or any of the subdivisional franchisees, agencies, are held in deed and mortgage, whether they're allegedly paid for or not. Conclusory is assumed, but never is done. And what they do, they take the instruments and they register it under a pooling service. And then whereas they say that you don't have payments, they put a tax on it, a property tax. And that property tax becomes a payment. It's just like a mortgage payment anyway. You know what I mean? Now, this is the whole deal. No, this is what they do. We're talking about not you necessarily because you're conscious. However, but this is what they do and will try to enforce, lest you have remedy. All right? And then whenever, like say, if they want the property for whatever reason, for any minerals that's under it, or if they want to develop something, they'll just execute what is called eminent domain and take it. And they're not sovereigns. See, this goes back to the identity theft and the identity crisis. Because they claim to be Americans when they're really stockholders for the United States Service Corporation. And they're converting that status implied that they are the Americans. Now let's go back up here and look what the Pope is talking about, so we can kind of look at the distinction of identity theft. Notice the estates in the states. Now, no enforcement of any American state or American state citizen is owed as a result of any act of any Congress operating as the sovereign government of the United States of America minor, nor the board as board of directors or board of trustees of any incorporated entity whatsoever. So what they've been doing, all instruments that come under them are actually on the stock market, and they're representing your estate, even though you didn't ask them. This is where the whole fraud comes in. And at any time they desire, they can foreclose. And in your mind, I paid for it. No, that's an assumption. It's not what took place. It's not what's on the record. What they do is they take their ledgers, and in spite of whatever you have done, cash or whatever, what you think, we're talking about what you thought to do and what it is. What people consider cash is private commercial paper. All right? It has no value unless it comes through the judgment order, through the Federal Reserve, which was set up after they sunk the Titanic. All right? In order to force that. So they got rid of competition. Are we clear? J.P. Morgan and did that. Now, so every instrument that is used in transaction is an assumed ownership when they're actually sharecropping instruments. So if one would say, under the fraud, I own something, you would start showing deed or certificate, preposition of title, all of which is not title. The only thing is title is allodial. only thing is titled allodial and aboriginal title.
And that's
Wow.
Wilson took care of that in
That's what we're
1913.
correcting now, but we're
Yes.
going
That's
about
what we're
the wrong
supposed to
way.
Yeah, and that's what, and I know that. But what I'm talking to you for is for everyone else, if you understand. I understand and comprehend where you're going. I want what you're saying clear for everyone else. Are we clear?
Yes.
Because there's an assumption of ownership where it doesn't exist. All hereditaments, corporal and incorporeal, have been hypothecated. That's the fraud. That's what Drew Ali came to restore, your right of estate, your lost estate. And that's why the traders keep talking everything else but this information. No, Drew Ali, praise Allah. No Drew Ali. He makes good peanut butter sandwiches. And they worship him. It's not what he came for. He came for you to enforce the law. And he said, if you don't believe that his program is right, go to those who know law. And the leader guys be saying that Drew Ali didn't teach civics. That's the highest level of civics. Constitutional enforcement. And they've been getting away with it. And our people are being injured because they are behind the 8 ball and things are happening. Do you understand? We're in the midst of a war being waged against us. Our people don't even know war is being waged on them. And these criminals, justice is on time. Islam developed.
You mentioned the word eminent domain,
Yes.
and it says the right of the state or sovereign to take private property for public use. Since eminent domain is an inherent attribute of sovereignty, the individual property owner's consent to the taking is immature. The Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution requires that the just compensation be made whenever private property is taken for public use by the Congress.
All right. And now, so what's happening? So you have a board of directors pretending to be Congress and exercising sovereign power that they do not have, and the heirs of the states are busy claiming to be black and Negroes with the help of trolls to undermine the platform. That's what that whole thing is about. We're showing you the connection. That's what we're doing. You know better, but where your head is where everybody's head needs. The people who are listening need to comprehend where your head is. You give them an opportunity to see it in action, although they can't see everything that you're doing. You're demonstrating where we're trying to get our people to operate and to accelerate and to do it yesterday. No, day before yesterday. Because this is the deal. Even when you're right, they abridge.
Right.
So the more people that we have who are competent and active, not passive, it will put brakes on it. Even when the people aren't totally clear that they are making an effort of reversion. No standing reversion is called adverse claim, isn't it? If you have no ongoing adverse claim, your claim is abandoned. I don't care how much you've done, what you put in it, whatever you claim, it makes no difference. However, it is well that those things are being checked. I mean, they're going to sacrifice a lot of people, yes. It can't be stopped. What we can do is limit the bloodshed. But it's like anything else. When you see something and you know something is coming, and you try your best to warn people, when people don't take it serious, and then the trains are on the track and they having a picnic, Got the intersection. Come on, these sandwiches is good. Have one. No. Go ahead.
I had an incident last week, a week ago, it was Thursday. I work out in the morning and I came home about 8:30. The police were on my property, the sheriffs were there, the moving truck, everything. And the sheriff said, "Hi, Gloria, you know what I'm here for, don't you?" I said, "I don't know what you're here for, but let me show you my paperwork." And I showed him, he said, "Well, let me make a call." So he made the call, and then everybody had to go home.
See, this is the deal. Now remember, what is the predication of their operations? We're assumed to be beneficiaries of their private trust to back their debt since the Civil War. Noble Ali pulled you out of that dead status. There is nothing in that status that can be done that's legitimate that will hold up in law. A lot of promises, a lot of HMO processes, site drafts, UCCs, financial statement claims, now birth certificate, all meaning the same thing. Well, for the last 35, 40 years, the HMOs, then site drafts, then affidavits to transportation department, then UCCs, then financial statements, now birth certificate. All of them are attempting to get their hands into that global estate trust. And you ask the average person about the global estate trust and they don't know what you're talking about, but they know all these other processes. When they don't even know the history of what this thing is all about. That's the foundation of the whole politics. You understand what I'm saying to you? And they keep going for these artist games, and it buys the European time. That's why the Manchurians have to step in, because we like gullible. It's the same thing, the same horse. They keep spray paint the horse and sell it back out. He keeps losing. The HMOs and the birth certificate argument, same thing. UCCs and dedication of birth certificate, same thing. Affidavit to the transportation department and the UCC, same thing. They're different angles still for the one purpose of trying to get their hands or control of the global estate trust. Jesuits ain't giving it up. Do you understand what I'm saying? That is the ball of wax. Meaning they have to be taken down. Anything created in color remains in color. And we're not colored people. Are we clear? Yeah. So the redundancy is for clarity. Because we need because if we can get people to fix this, the other stuff fixes itself. Because most of the other things are symptoms of this issue. And the idea that people even have that they're paying things off, is really interesting. But anyway, I want to thank you all for coming out to the House of Reawakening Minds. I want, for those who are listening, for the little that you can share, make sure that you help Dr. Naila to keep this venue open. And Sister Roz comes here, and she has books, a lot of literature that you'll need. And Brother Abdul Bey comes here. He's one of the best etymologists in the country. In fact, it's not just because he's our boy, it's just simply the truth. He's about as good as they come. And always improving. Always improving. Now, and I've known him over the years. And I have to be honest with you. I thought I was more going on. That brother studies. Brother Abdullah studies. I remember I used to, share some of my books in my library with him. I had to get them back sometime. Where's my book? Yeah, but anyway, and brothers, he's written quite a few impactful books that are some of your most important books of recent literature. Make sure you acquire them.
When is he here? When is he here?
Second Friday, he was here last Friday, he'll be back on the second, every second Friday.
Yes. Yes. Let's see what else I want to. Now listen. In your claim, sis. And this is the nature of a reversion. See, when you, and that is, when I say that's you, that's a plural you, comprehend what is going on with the heirs of the estate being held as surety. This is what you need to understand. It's not what you agreed to. And it's not what you agreed to. It's not what your mother agreed to. It's what they've done in the name of your mothers and your fathers and yourselves. They have pledged your life, your labor, your properties to back U.S. government debt since the Civil War. That's why the reversioner is an adverse claim. And so and sis, say your name loud, because you're more and you're proud.
Lena Bay.
I, Lynn Bay, the living sentient woman, say,
Lena.
Lena
oh,
Bay.
sound like my mom. That's my mom. My mom's Lena. My mother's Lena Ruth.
Lena May.
Lena Ruth.
I'm Lena May.
Yeah, Lena May. Yes, Lena Ruth. Go ahead. I, Lena May, the living sentient woman and rightful heir, am not lost at sea, as a counter to unum sanctum. And I affirm and declare my right of reversion of estate, and therefore I make no claim with respect to the title and misrepresented name, man, or straw, nom de guerre being a title, and the spurious creations of the foreign de facto United States corporate operators, actors, and owners. And I surrender and assign any and all reversionary interests to the United States and its subsidiaries for full acquittance, discharge, settlement, and closure of my reliance, Title 18, United States Code 95A, Part 2. I assume no liabilities or debts, however contrived, among its associates, and I do not consent to stand as surety for the foreign, private, and for-profit United States Incorporated, U.S. Corporation Company, entity owners, directors, or their administrators, nor do I stand as surety for its subsidiaries or its associates at any point or moment in time. So that's an heir speaking up.
Where would you file that?
Yeah. You got that right. That be the nature of that statement, and it can be expanded, is structured within all of your claims to your right of estate. And it's called, that would be called in the law of operative estates, what is called an adverse claim. An adverse claim not ongoing, is considered abandonment. No matter what is done.
But are you filing that?
No, you give them notice.
Who's them?
County. The county record.
Got it. County record.
Mainly, yeah. But you would not necessarily ask them for permission.
No.
You notice that.
I know that. Yeah.
You notice that because anything that is what you call permissive or
say no to.
that you have to apply for is an admission to a false platform of jurisdiction. Because what they're doing, they made a culpable claim on your estate in the first place, but you make a reversionary adverse claim on it. Go ahead, brother.
Yes, just a point of clarification, I think you mentioned 18, it was 12. Just for the people who are listening. And then also, question about the letter to the Pope. Could you summarize why he felt the need, or why there was a need.
It's
to
not that
actually-
he felt the need, they were under pressure. So you gotta remember, this is what's happening. And we're gonna close out, because I know I keep it over. This is what's happening, and people need to understand, is that there's a civil war going on at North America that's been pretty much kept out of the public because the mainstream news are controlled by the Kabbalists. And therefore, you're not exposed to everything. The techniques that they have been using to disappear people are being turned on them. Their control has been predicated on befriend, embrace, devour, meaning that they have no friends. Their strength of continuance has been artful promotion of blind faith. That means when you begin to discover their fraud, they'll set a program, a process by which you're supposed to have access to the estate trust that they're controlling in the transmitting utility that they have represented on your behalf on the stock market. They buy time, they get much information they can from you, then they send out black boxes to knock you off. Name, let's look at this. Name, now over the years, I've talked to many Europeans, and some Europeans that came to my class. One prominent European wealthy woman, you all know her, she writes for High Truth magazine. I won't say her name because whatever, but. And then there's a couple other Europeans that were holding classes for years with sovereignty, what they call sovereignty classes. And it was averaging like to come to a class like this, you come through the door with 1,500. You don't get through the door. That was then, if you understand. Now, deal is they've never honored anything. You're intelligent, and you've done research. I mean, they don't have opportunity to necessarily know it, but I know this. I've done radio stations around this country, from the West Coast to the East Coast. I've talked to many people in between. Celebrities, radio people, producers, a lot of people that you consider celebrities, that in private, we have private conversations, but they can't come public because these people, Negroites, will not buy their stuff, not see their movies and stuff like that. Even this ring that belongs to an actress, that diamond, that was just a gift. Right? If I told you who she was, you'd be surprised. But let me say this to you. When you think that people don't know this, you're sorely wrong. And I say this. Now, Dr. Naila, just as an intro, now, I'm a house doctor. Right? And I just have a crew and all that stuff. But anything that has to do with house, doesn't matter what it is, I understand it, I can do it. Now,
I can attest to that.
if you ask me to fix that door, and we're into next week and next month, and I'm talking about keep hope alive, and you making me peanut butter sandwiches every day with coffee because you got a lot of tea. That sister got some tea, boy. She got tea, that tea don't have tea. The tea company ain't got tea, she got it. Anyway, and then we're next year, and I'm talking about keep hope alive. After a while, how many donkeys have we got in the house, if you get the whole point? Meaning that you either is or you ain't. You either do something or you don't. Now let's be honest, and this is truth. I've dealt with Europeans and Asiatics around this country in many venues, and I have to be honest with you. One thing I always look at, and this is principle, anything that's legitimate and true is never complex. That's number one. And number two, anything that's legitimate and true for you, if we take just this row right here, and you go through the process, if one fails, it's only because of some little glitch, but all of you should run through. Tell the truth. How many people do you know through your years of study that did HMOs that you can count on one hand that was successful all the way through? How many people through all your travels that you can count on one hand that did financial statements that got a hold of that global estate trust under the Jesuits and discharged everything at all times? Name one person that did a financial statement and satisfied all their debts. Name one person that did the birth certificate and got control of that global estate trust and got their hands on that bottomless pit of finances. Name a handful of them, but I can name, not directly, not because we haven't, necessarily talked with everyone personally, but indirectly with others who've operated that deal with this stuff. That tells you failure. That tells you bullshit. That tells you being played. It tells you they're buying time. For all the millions of people that have done all these different processes, and a lot of people have been selling packages for thousands of notes, getting people's energy. Ask them to show you the checks that they are just discharged. And they'll tell you all of these processes, etc. And I could give you some numbers. Even with the IRS criminals, where you complete the UCC, then they say, oh, but you forgot to get this one and stuff. I think that's Form 81, whatever. It's 4 numbers. And after they run through all these years, they say, you didn't add this one, then you do that and they play you again. Now, I book cars, off lots and didn't pay taxes. And I, help some people, relieve the city tax where they try to pull the crap on them. And they'll let you through here and there. But it's only to keep faith with the other blinders. Mm-hmm. Or they think you're going to go after their bonds, so they let you slide and then they try to put stuff off the record. But let me tell you this. Name 5 people. Name 2. But you can name hundreds that got these packages to sell, these processes to sell, etc. Now let's be real. Can I sit that back from it? Trick or treat and stuff. Now, if I got my hand in this trick or treat bag, I don't need your candy, right? And I got the factory type thing.
Right.
So how come people that's always promoting these processes need a couple hundred from you?
Right. True. They should be millionaires.
That's like the bread factory talking about come on to the bread show but bring a sandwich with you. I don't want to see no bread. That's like somebody got the ocean beach, I got the condo down at the beach and everything. I said, sis, come on down, I'll see what you're getting your house together and stuff. We going swimming, bring a bucket of water with you. No, I don't want to see no water. Do you understand what I'm saying? We should use intelligence. And understand this whole promise is bull. It's buying them time. Choke Rome. Choke the beast. Choke the transmitting utility. Don't claim it. They offer you beautiful apples, don't bite it. But it doesn't mean don't study and don't see what they're doing, understand what they're doing. But intelligence tells you, if you can't name 5 people that completed this cycle and you know millions are doing it and transmit, running all over the damn place. Going following here, going to the transportation department. Going over here to the Commerce Department. Going down to the IRS, getting a 9-digit number. You're authenticating birth certificate. Stop. How's it re-awakening minds? Have a good night.
Thank you so much.